Hi, I'm Kim Polishuk.
And I'm Jen Giffen from
Shooks and Giff, the podcast. A part of the Education Podcast Network.
Just like the show you're listening to right now.
Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others.
Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Coming up on episode 145 of the House of EdTech podcast, I've got a bit of a follow-up to my now ready versus future ready argument, and I'm excited to share 3 tech tools that could help struggling readers that you work with and improve their reading comprehension. Strike up the band. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Chris Nesi. The House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. I discuss technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, and I share tools and tips that you can hear today and use tomorrow. You're going to hear the stories of teachers, leaders, and creators just like you. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way you teach and how your students learn. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the House of EdTech. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. I've got a great episode for you right now. But first, I do want to express that I'm thankful because I'm releasing this episode the week of Thanksgiving here in the US in the year 2019, and I am truly thankful for many things in my life. I am thankful for my family, my parents, my brother. I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for my children. I am thankful for my job. And I'm thankful that I get to sit down and really, have fun and create this content for you, as well as being a podcast editor on things like the Google Teacher Tribe podcast, which is coming up on 100 episodes. Don't miss that. It's a very fun episode. Producing Partial Credit, being a part of Podcast PD with Stacey Lindis and AJ Bianco, being a part of the Education Podcast Network. I am thankful for everything that I do. And I'm really happy to say that there's really nothing in my life right now, knock on wood, that I'm not thankful for. So I'm in a good place right now. Life is good. So now I'm just working not to screw that up. But I'm thankful. So I hope you take some time this week to, whether you celebrate Thanksgiving or not, just think about everything that you have and what really makes you happy, and to be thankful, truly thankful, for all that you do have. Because, let's be honest, if we look around the world, it could be a lot worse. What's not worse is when I'm able to connect with new listeners. And I did that between last episode and this episode, and I want to quickly shout out a new listener that I recently connected with, and I want to say hello on the podcast to Kirsten Thompson. Kirsten is from Manitoba, Canada, and she is on Twitter, and her handle is at Miss LWBT, and that's MISSLWBT. I don't know quite how I would pronounce all of that, but go on Twitter, connect with Kirsten Thompson, and say hello. I'm glad I got to say hello, and I'm thankful that Kirsten is now listening to the House of EdTech podcast. Also, I want to say that the 2019 House of EdTech Smackdown is almost here. But I'm going to be honest, I am a little sad to report that I've only gotten 2 submissions for this year's Smackdown. So episode 147 might be a very short episode. So if you were thinking Chris is going to get too many contributions, or that maybe I wouldn't include your submission, the door is wide open. I want you to share the tech tool, app, website, or strategy that you have loved here in 2019. Gather your thoughts and send me some audio. You can Vox me. My username is Mr. Nesi, MRNESI. You could also call the House of EdTech feedback line. That number is 732-903-4869. And depending on your podcast app that you're listening to this on, you should be able to scroll down or tap or do something, and you'll be able to tap the phone number right there on your podcast app, and you can call me right from your phone. How cool is that? You could also go to chrisnesi.com and click the SpeakPipe button on basically any page on the website, Or you could go old school and record yourself and send me an email with an attachment. You can send that to feedback@chrisnessy.com. Just be sure to put 2019 Smackdown in the subject line so I can easily sort that on my end of the email system. And also, however you reach out to me, please be sure to include who you are and what your role is in education and how people can connect with you. But also remember, if you do just send me an email or you send me some sort of text message, you are taking your chances with the quality of the impression that I do of you. So if you want to be accurate, make sure you send me audio so that way I don't misrepresent you. So I'm looking forward to getting some submissions for the Smackdown and bringing that to you in my last episode of the calendar year. Now, let's go to the EdTech Thought. For this episode's EdTech Thought, I thought I would take some time and do a follow-up to episode 144, and that episode was titled, Forget Future Ready, Let's Get Now Ready. I released episode 144 knowing that I might be opening a can of worms by expressing criticism of something that's popular out into the world. I was both surprised and happy to get feedback in support of my opinion. There were a number of people who reached out via email or Voxer or on DMs who really appreciated the content and my point of view on Future Ready. So it's nice to not be the only person who thinks that Future Ready is a gimmick, and that focusing on the now and a realistic future would be more worthwhile for our students. What I didn't expect was a direct message on Twitter from Tom Murray the morning the episode was released. Now, if you haven't listened to episode 144, I did reference a conversation that I had with Tom about Future Ready back in 2015, and that was episode 28 of the podcast. This was when Future Ready was brand new and shiny, and it was all the rage as superintendents were racing to take the Future Ready pledge. So Tom's DM to me was as follows, and I think that this is fair game for me to share because it's my show and I will share what I want to share. So Tom's message was as follows, quote, "Hey Chris, if you're going to knock Future Ready New Jersey, please label it as so. I don't oversee any of that, and it's very different than what we do nationally. We don't do rubrics, badges, banners, etc. nationally. I just respectfully ask that you accurately depict that in your criticism. You reference talking to me and then trash how Future Ready New Jersey set things up, which are two different things. Thanks." End quote. Now, I can't completely refute Tom's claim, but I did speak about Future Ready as I've witnessed it, as it exists here in New Jersey. I did do a little more digging. So here is some information from futureready.org that I've put together. First, 30 out of 50 states, plus Washington, D.C., have adopted statewide Future Ready projects. Future Ready then provides each state with resources to do what they want in their own implementation of Future Ready. So what happens in New Jersey is in fact very different than other states. Part of me wants to say, only 30 states? Shouldn't we 4 years later have 50 out of 50 states that want to do Future Ready and push education forward? I'm not saying that that's Tom Murray's fault, because it's not. Obviously, it's up to each individual state to decide to get involved with this initiative. But to date, only 30 out of 50 states have taken the pledge, so to speak. I'm going to include a link in the show notes at chrisnessy.com/145 that has basically a description about what each individual state's Future Ready is all about. And you can judge for yourself what your state's approach is. Tom also made mention of the work being done nationally, to which I ask, what exactly is that? Why is there a distinction between the national and state levels for Future Ready? You might have other questions. I do too, but we may not get answers to those questions. You see, I replied to Tom's message just a few hours after he sent it, and I replied, with the following. Quote, "Thanks for reaching out, Tom. I hope you felt no disrespect, as that was not the intent. Our conversation at the onset of Future Ready was inspiring and gave me a lot of hope of what education could evolve into, and I just don't like what I see 4 years later. I know education is slow to move the needle, and I just wish more people were in this for the right reasons and a more concerted effort was leading to greater strides. Would you be willing to, along with other people, come on a future episode and continue the conversation? The goal would be to provide more insight on what Future Ready is and isn't here in 2020 and beyond." Tom Murray has yet to respond to me. It is an open invitation to anybody from Future Ready to come onto the House of EdTech, and let's continue the conversation if being future ready is more important than being now ready. I've got questions. You've got questions. Let's try and get those questions answered. And that's my EdTech Thought. For this episode's featured content, I wanted to share some tools that could help improve reading comprehension. What inspired this episode? My pal, AJ Bianco, co-host of Podcast PD, asked me if I knew of any tools that could help students who are struggling with their reading. So I thought about it, and then I said I should probably do some research and come up with an answer to that question. His asking me that has led to what I'm going to share with you right now. Because students struggling to understand and remember what they've read, whether or not they have learning disabilities, you can use certain tools, and there's a lot of them out there, that can help students hear, map, annotate, and see their books, stories, and other assignments in very new ways. So the 3 tools that I'm going to talk about today are number 1, rewordify.com, number 2, Snap and Read, and number 3, Immersion Learning. Let's start with rewordify.com. Rewordify.com simplifies difficult English. A student enters hard sentences or whole chapters by copying and pasting. You could also enter a website URL. Then you click Rewordify Text, and students will instantly see an easier version for fast understanding. The reworded words are highlighted. You can click them to hear and learn the original harder words, and students can change how the highlighting works to match the way they learn. Rewordify will help your students learn more words faster. Their exclusive learning sessions actively teach words so students learn them. Anytime you paste in a block of text, their software finds all the hard words and lets students pick the ones they want to learn, and then teaches them in what they call a learning session. Now, a learning session isn't an online quiz. It's an effective step-by-step process where students hear words and phrases, type them, and read them. The software reteaches students exactly what they need when they need it, and moves ahead when they're ready. When students have learned a word, the site stops rewording it, so the site grows with them as they learn. Rewordify has an extensive library of classic texts available that's already able to use, from people like Aesop, Hans Christian Andersen, Beowulf, Agatha Christie, Charles Darwin, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Robert Frost, Jack London, Thomas Paine, Plato, Edgar Allan Poe, and your favorite and mine, William Shakespeare. Did you dread reading Shakespeare in high school? Do you dread teaching Shakespeare today? Allow me to demo Rewordify right now using an excerpt from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Let us turn our attention to Act 1, Scene 1. Here is the original text. Why, such is love's transgression. Griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which thou wilt propagate to have it pressed. With more of thine, this love that thou hast shown, doth add more grief to too much of mine own. Love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs, being purged a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes. Be vexed a sea nourished with lovers' tears. What is it else? A madness most discreet, a choking gall, and a preserving sweet. Farewell, my cause. I have no idea what I just said for the most part, and I'm 38 years old. Here is what Rewordify has modified that same line of text to. Why, such is love's crime. Sadness about death of my own lie heavy in my breast, which you will spread to have it pressed. With more of yours, this love that you have shown does add more sadness about death to too much of my own. Love is a smoke raised with fume of sighs, being cleared or cleaned, a fire sparkling in lover's eyes, being frustrated and upset, a sea fed with lover's tears. What is it else? A madness most quiet, so nobody else will know, a choking rude boldness, and a preserving sweet. Goodbye, my cause. So there are some differences there, and I'm going to include a link to Rewordify in the show notes, of course. I'm also going to include in my show notes this, as I copied and pasted it, the two versions of this particular text, and you can get an idea of really what it changed, but it's really effective if you click on the link and go right to Rewordify to check it out, because this is cool. And I think it's super valuable for any age level. Again, I'm 38, and it helped me understand this one line in this thing that I read when I was in high school, and I probably struggled with it then, and I would probably still struggle with it today if I was a part of some Romeo and Juliet book study. So words that are not highlighted, they can also be clicked on, and I thought this was neat, that you can click on any word, and it will show you a definition and give you a pronunciation. And students or users would also have the option of reading the original and replaced words. So it's really cool for that built-in text-to-speech function that is good for that auditory reinforcement. And they also have historic documents, like the Declaration of Independence, that students can access, read, and better understanding using this site's unique comprehension tools. So there'll be a link out in the show notes to rewordify.com. Next up, we have Snap and Read. According to their website, Snap and Read is the next generation tool for Google Chrome, iPad, and more that can cover the most diverse reading needs. It reads both accessible and inaccessible text aloud. It levels vocabulary, and it translates, delivering usage data to teachers who can then more easily access and assess students' reading needs individually. It was created for students and teachers. Snap and Read Universal is a Google Chrome extension that reads language aloud, including text on Flash-based websites, but those are a dying breed, thank goodness. And that's text that typically can't be copied and pasted. But it will use integrated text-to-speech that has synchronized highlighting. To aid in reading comprehension, Snap and Read allows students to use a text leveling tool similar to what I just talked about with rewordify.com, and students can select text that they have a hard time understanding, and the web browser extension will identify and replace difficult words with simpler ones right there on the web page. The level of linguistic complexity can be adjusted in the Options tab. In addition, Snap and Read has a unique outlining tool that can also help with reading comprehension. After it's activated, students can highlight the main ideas of reading, and those passages are automatically extracted and placed into an outline located in the browser sidebar that can be easily edited. The outline can be dragged and dropped into a word processor like Google Docs, and students can further integrate it into any writing they do about something they've read. Snap and Read is free to try, and you can contact them about pricing for individuals, parents who want to work with their own children, if you're an educator, or if you're a whole school, there is school and district pricing available, and I will include a link to Snap and Read in the show notes for this episode. Before I talk about our last tech tool that can help students with their reading comprehension, I want to pause for just a second with the sponsor for this episode, and that is Casey Bell and Shake Up Learning.
Hey y'all, Casey Bell from Shake Up Learning and longtime listener of the House of EdTech, and I have a really special opportunity that I'd like to share with you today. If you've ever thought about getting Google certified, but you are unsure where to start, or maybe just overwhelmed with all of the content, I can help. I have 3 online courses to help you reach your Google certification goals. The Google Certified Educator Level 1 Academy, the Level 2 Academy, and the Google Certified Trainer Academy. I have helped thousands of other educators reach their goals, and I would love to help you. But don't miss this opportunity. These courses only open twice a year. The enrollment window opens on November 19th and it closes on December 3rd. So don't miss out. Go to chrisnessy.com/shakeuplearning to learn more. And I hope to see you in the courses. Bye, y'all.
The last tech tool that I think will help students improve their reading comprehension is called Immersion Reading. Immersion Reading takes you deeper into a story than ever before. This functionality allows you to read a Kindle ebook and listen to its professionally narrated audible companion all at the same time. Not only that, but the user gets the benefit of real-time highlighting, making Immersion Reading a valuable tool to boost reading comprehension and overall retention of content. This would allow students to read books with their eyes and ears at the same time, leading to better comprehension and retention of subject matter. Since it does not rely on synthesized text-to-speech and instead uses the vocal performance of a professional actor or broadcaster, it makes auditory reinforcement of written text way more authentic and a better multisensory experience. The following devices support Immersion Reading, and that would be the Kindle app for iOS, the Kindle app for Android, and any Fire tablets that are second generation and above. So these are 3 really cool, really interesting tools that you can use and your students can use to improve reading comprehension. And do you have a favorite? I know that these are only 3, and I know that there are dozens more. Do you have experience with Rewordify or Snap and Read or Immersion Reading? I would love to get your thoughts and hear your stories about what you've used technology-wise to help your students with reading comprehension. You can leave a comment on the show notes at chrisnessy.com/145, or you can send me a message by going to chrisnessy.com/feedback. And again, thank you to AJ Bianco at AJ Bianco on Twitter for asking me about this particular topic, and you inspired this episode, buddy. Thank you so much. And now it's time for this episode's House of EdTech VIP, and I want to congratulate Lindsay Petricola, a digital literacy teacher, K-3 here in New Jersey. She teaches in Piscataway. Lindsay also serves as a technology coordinator. She's also a Google certified educator and an Apple teacher. You can learn more about Lindsay and what she's doing on her blog, which is eduplugged.weebly.com. And Lindsay is on Twitter. She is at eduplugged, eduplugged. And she's doing some great work. So congratulations, Lindsay. You are a House of EdTech VIP. Thanks for checking out this episode of the House of EdTech podcast. Let's keep the conversation going. I want to hear about the reading comprehension tools that you're using, so share them with me. Go out to chrisnessy.com/145. You'll find links to the 3 tools that I talked about in this episode, and you can also go to chrisnessy.com/feedback to share your thoughts as well. If you enjoy the House of EdTech, whether it's this episode or all the episodes you've listened to, do me a huge favor. Tell somebody else about this podcast. Go to your break room, call your best friend on the phone, share it on social media. Use the hashtag House of EdTech or tag us on Twitter and Instagram, because word of mouth is the best way to share podcasts that you enjoy. You could also consider reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts. I want to specifically thank Jake Miller from the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, who left this nice review. Need an update on what's going on in EdTech? Chris Nessie is right there for you. I've been listening for years, and I have learned lots. Thanks, Chris. I think it's cool that I taught Jake Miller stuff from him listening to this podcast. And if you like this one, also go and check out Jake Miller's podcast, Educational Duct Tape. Also got a nice review from Mr. Gway, or Gway? I'll go with Mr. Gway. And he said, loved getting all the ideas presented. Great ideas across all classroom areas. Thank you to both of you for leaving an Apple Podcast review. And if you're not on Apple Podcast, leave me a podcast review wherever you can leave a podcast review. That puts gas in my tank. The other way you can support the show is by becoming an awesome supporter. My Awesome Supporter program is powered by Patreon, which allows a consumer of content like you to support a creator of content like me. Special thanks to Anthony Arnault from the New Teacher Podcast, Eric Kurtz from Control-Alt-Achieve, Dan Gallagher, Carlos Garza, aka Mr. G from the Aced Tech Podcast, Peggy George from Classroom 2.0 Live, the Jen Giffen from Shooks and Giff the Podcast, Jeff Herb from InstructionalTechTalk.com, Mike Messner at TeacherMike72 on Twitter, and my man JP Prezavento, host of the Bits and Bytes of Education podcast, and Kyle Wilcox at Level Up EdTech on Twitter. If you are interested in becoming an awesome supporter, go to chrisnessie.com/awesome. The next episode of the podcast is number 146, and that comes your way December 8th, 2019. Until next time, thank you for learning with me, and remember, using technology is not difficult. Just give it a try.